The purpose of this video is to explain how to use the Tables feature to format your chapter site. We'll provide an overview of the Tables feature, show you how to resize a column, how to format cells, and how to insert a row. Most chapter sites are already set up as a table consisting of 3 columns and 2 rows. You can tell when you look at the content of your chapter site that you'll see these 3 distinct columns, 1, 2, 3, and then 2 distinct rows. Now if you go out to your chapter site and you're not quite sure, so for example here's a site, it's kind of hard to tell whether or not this chapter has tables. When you edit your site, you'll see these little dashed lines. These are used to delineate the cells. So if you see these little dashed lines, that's how you'll know where the cells are. Again, 1, 2, 3 columns and 2 rows. Your site may only have 1 cell, in other words, a 1 by 1 table. If that's the case, you'll want to go ahead and insert a table to get a little bit more functionality from the formatting. If you're going to make any major changes like that to your site, I suggest you use the homepage whip. If you're not sure what that is, we have another video that explains what the whip is and how to use it. In order to access the properties for a table, you'll use this icon on the toolbar. You'll also note that's where you would insert a table. Now if you see this icon, the content of it, it actually looks very similar to the table icon and functionality in Microsoft Office products. So if you've ever used, for example, a table in Word, you'll find that this is very similar. To insert a table, you would simply highlight the cells that you want to include in your table. There's another way to access that same menu, and that's by right-clicking in the table, and here you'll get a menu with a listing of the icons with their meaning. So insert a row, insert columns, delete, merge, etc. Cell properties and table properties. You can access that here as well, but the icons don't immediately have words. You have to hover on them. The bottom right is the table properties. When you click on that, that brings up a dialog box with multiple tabs. Table Design tab allows you to add and remove rows and columns. Table Properties applies properties to the entire table. So for example, if you wanted the entire table, every cell to have the same background color, you could select it here. Cell Properties is probably where you'll do most of your formatting. This allows you to format each individual cell or a group of cells at the same time. You'll know which cell you're formatting because it will be the one highlighted in gray. So this would format the center top cell, bottom right, etc. You can also select multiple cells. So for example, if you wanted to do formatting on that whole right column, you can select the first cell, hold down the Control key, and click on the second cell. Now both cells are highlighted, so any edits that you do would apply to both of them, or in this case the entire column. You could also format an entire row in that same manner. Again, if you right-click and do Table Properties, that brings up the same dialog box. If you right-click and do Cell Properties, it actually takes you to the same dialog box, but directly to the cell properties of the cell you were in when you right-clicked Cell Properties. So that's an overview of the Tables feature. Now, if you look at this chapter site, you'll notice that the first column is very narrow. It's hard to read the words, and it's also elongated the row because the content is being squished into a very narrow column. So let's widen that column to make it a little bit more readable. To do that, we will edit the site and then do Table Properties on the Cell Properties page, and we need to highlight both of these cells because we want to change the entire column. The first one is selected, so I'll hold the Control key down and click the second. And you'll notice there's a width property here. It's set to 10%, which would be obviously 10% of the total width of the table. I'm going to increase that to, let's say, 25% and see how that looks. So now you can see the column is much wider. The content fits much better, and also the row is now shorter because the content is not squished into a narrow column. So that's how you would edit a column width. Now let's talk about formatting a cell. So if we look at this first bit of information, all the reminders about the requirements are important. So maybe you want to highlight that and draw attention to it when your members look at your site. So let's go ahead and format this cell. So now I'm in this cell and I'm just going to do cell properties directly. This is the cell that's highlighted I want to change. And I'm going to set a background color. Let's make it yellow so it really stands out. There. So you see that cell is yellow, and if we scroll down, you'll see only that cell is yellow. All right, so that looks pretty bright. Maybe I don't want such a bright yellow. Let's go back in and pick a different yellow. Cell properties. You'll see when I look at the pre-designed colors, there is no other yellow. This is the only yellow that there is. Now you can add a custom color. So I'm going to add a custom color that's a yellow that's not quite so bright. Well, how do you do that? You simply click on this and it says add custom color. You'll notice it's a pound sign and then it's blank. Well, it's looking for a hexadecimal RGB or red, green, blue code. If you look at these codes, you'll see that they have numbers and letters. So that's a hexadecimal RGB code. You need to get that. How do you do that? Well, you may already have it if you have some particular color. Let's say it's a color for a school that your chapter supports and you already know that. Otherwise, I found this website. It's called rgbcolorcode.com. And it has an RGB input here, RGB, and with little sliders that you can use to move around until you get to a color that you like. And I think that's pretty good. That's a pale yellow. And so you'll see here the pound FFFFFB5. That's the hexadecimal code for this particular color. So I'll simply copy that code, add the custom color, and paste it in. And now I have that color available to select. So I'm going to select that and apply it. And there we have a light yellow. Now let's do some more style editing to this cell. Again, if we go to cell properties, we just did the background color. There's also a button here for something called the style builder. And this is where you can get very fancy with your style of your cells. We have background here as well. You can actually put an image in here and then fade that out and make that be the background for your cell. There's a lot of other features here. I'm just going to talk about border. So you can add a border to your cell. You can set top, bottom, left, and right, and you could set the borders of the cell. All four of them could be different. In this case, I'm going to give all of my borders the same. I'm going to make it be a dashed line, and you'll notice this little checkbox here, same for all. If you check that, it'll apply this to all of them. And I'll make it 9 points, and I think I'll make it be red. Okay. So now you see I have a big red border around this cell, and again, because I was only editing that cell, it's just around there. You can come in here and go back to the style builder. For example, let's say you didn't want the border to be so big. You can change that. You could even change the colors of each side, etc. So you can play around with that and see what format you like for your site. So that's how to edit a cell. Now I'm going to show you how to insert new content. So for example, if we wanted to insert a row above the entire content of the site listing the mission of YMSL. So I'm going to right-click and say Insert Row Above. Now that has given me a row that's formatted in the same way as the row that I cloned essentially. But I want to have a single row, so I'm going to need to merge these. This is slightly different if you've ever used Microsoft Word, where you can select all of them and then right-click Merge. Here you just simply put your cursor in one of them and select Merge Cells Horizontally. And then again we're right-clicking to get this menu, Merge Cells Horizontally. So now I have a row that spans all my columns. And I'm going to go ahead and insert the mission. I happen to have it already here in a notepad. So I'm going to copy that. Oops. Paste the text in. Okay, now I'm going to do a little formatting on this text. I'm going to highlight it, center it, make it bigger. Maybe make the word mission even bigger, bold. All right, and then I'm going to make the text white. All right, so now if I want to format this cell again, go back to Cell Properties, and now you'll see this is selected. Style Builder. I'm going to set the background to be a blue color. A grooved border. Maybe do it like orange or something. A little bigger. And there we have another cell inserted with a different kind of border. So that's how to use the table properties to edit your chapter site.